The rain was pouring across a lonely Texas highway when a widowed rancher spotted a frightened mother holding her freezing baby. He stopped his truck, expecting to offer a little help, but her next words changed everything. "Please, may we sleep in your barn?" Like, share, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Now let's get started. Rain pounded the lonely Texas highway as 38-year-old Daniel Reed guided his battered pickup through the darkness. The storm had arrived suddenly, turning the dirt roads around his ranch into rivers of mud. Daniel had spent most of the evening repairing a broken fence, but now he was heading home when his headlights caught something moving beside the road. He slowed and saw a young woman standing beneath a dead cottonwood tree, desperately shielding a tiny baby from the rain. Daniel immediately stopped. The woman looked exhausted, frightened, and freezing. She clutched the baby against her chest and stepped backward when Daniel approached. "Easy," Daniel said, keeping his distance. "I'm not going to hurt you." The woman stared at him through wet strands of brown hair. Her clothes were soaked and the baby was wrapped in a thin, nearly useless blanket. "Please," she whispered. "I don't need money. I just need somewhere safe." Daniel glanced at the baby, whose tiny face was pale from the cold. "Where are you headed?" he asked. The woman lowered her eyes. "Nowhere." Her voice broke. "My car died miles back. I have no family nearby, and my baby hasn't slept properly in 2 days." Daniel removed his jacket and held it toward her. She hesitated before accepting it. "There's a barn on my ranch," Daniel said. "You can stay there tonight." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "May we sleep in your barn?" she asked softly. Daniel looked at the frightened baby and remembered something he had learned after losing his wife 3 years earlier. Sometimes a person didn't need questions, advice, or judgment. Sometimes they simply needed someone to open a door. "You don't have to sleep in the barn," he said. "I have a guest room. Come with me." The woman stared at him as if she couldn't believe what she had heard. Finally, she nodded and followed him toward the truck. At the ranch, Daniel carried the baby inside while the woman followed silently. He started a fire, heated water, and found clean clothes for her. "What's your name?" he asked. "Sarah," she answered. "And this is Emma." Daniel smiled gently at the baby. Sarah explained that she had been evicted from her apartment after falling behind on rent. She had been searching for work while caring for Emma. But everything seemed to collapse at once. Daniel listened without interrupting. He gave her hot soup and fresh bread. For the first time in weeks, Sarah allowed herself to breathe. She watched Daniel carefully, still unsure why a stranger would help them. Later that night, after Sarah and Emma were asleep, Daniel walked through the quiet house and checked the doors. When he reached the barn, he noticed something strange near the entrance. Sarah's small suitcase was hidden beneath an old horse blanket. He wasn't trying to invade her privacy, but a loose envelope had fallen onto the floor. Daniel picked it up, only to return it to the suitcase. Then he noticed the photograph sticking out from underneath. It showed Sarah standing beside a little girl who looked remarkably like Emma. Beneath the photograph were several official documents. Daniel frowned, sensing that Sarah had not told him everything. Before he could think further, headlights appeared outside. The headlights stopped at the ranch gate, and Daniel immediately realized that the peaceful night was over. 2 black trucks stood beyond the fence, their engines rumbling beneath the sound of rain. A tall man stepped out and shouted, "Sarah, we know you're here." Daniel quietly closed the barn door and returned to the house. Sarah was already awake, holding Emma tightly against her chest. Her face had gone completely pale. "Who are they?" Daniel asked. Sarah shook her head, tears gathering in her eyes. "I was afraid they would find me." Daniel locked the doors and told her to stay behind him. The men claimed Sarah had stolen money and kidnapped a wealthy businessman's granddaughter. Daniel listened through the closed door, but something about their story didn't make sense. Sarah finally admitted the truth. Her late husband had worked as an accountant for a powerful ranching company in Texas. Before his sudden death, he discovered that several executives were secretly stealing millions of dollars. He had gathered documents, proving the crime and hidden copies where nobody would look. After his death, Sarah found those documents. The men outside wanted them destroyed. They had followed her because they believed she still had the evidence. Daniel remembered the envelope he had accidentally seen in Sarah's suitcase. "Is that what they are looking for?" he asked. Sarah nodded. "Yes. If they get those papers, they'll erase everything that connects them to the theft." Daniel looked toward the window. The men were moving closer to the house. He didn't know Sarah well, but he knew fear when he saw it. He also knew that sending a mother and baby back into the storm would be wrong. "Stay here," he said. "I'm calling the sheriff." Sarah grabbed his arm. "They could hurt you." Daniel gave her a calm smile. "This is my ranch. They don't decide what happens here." Daniel contacted the county sheriff and explained everything. Meanwhile, the men outside became impatient. One of them kicked the gate and threatened to come inside. Daniel switched on the ranch lights, making it clear that someone was watching. He also moved Sarah and Emma into a secure room near the back of the house. Minutes later, distant sirens echoed across the wet countryside. The two trucks attempted to leave, but the sheriff's deputies arrived before they could escape. The men were arrested, and the evidence inside Sarah's suitcase was taken into custody. For the first time since arriving at the ranch, Sarah finally felt safe. The investigation lasted several weeks, and the documents Sarah carried exposed a massive financial scheme. The executives responsible were arrested, while Sarah received legal protection and financial compensation. She was offered enough money to start a new life somewhere far away. Yet when Daniel expected her to leave, she surprised him. "I don't want to go," she admitted. "Emma and I finally feel safe here." Daniel looked at the little girl who was sitting near the fireplace and smiling at him. He realized how much the quiet house had changed since they arrived. It no longer felt empty. It felt like home again. Months later, Sarah helped manage the ranch. Emma grew up surrounded by horses, and Daniel discovered that saving a stranger had given him something he thought he had lost forever: a family